CBD, cannabidiol, is typically known for and used for its calming properties, but it also has anti-inflammatory-like effects. And when taken over time, really helps the body with recovery. It really helps the body achieve what we call as homeostasis.
A lot of women over 40. Sleep for so many of us is the friggin' holy grail that we're constantly chasing.
Our intention is not to necessarily get people high, but to get people the relief. The stress relief, the ability to calm down, the ability to sleep.
Hey, Joe, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to chat with you today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, well, my listeners know I have been singing the praises of Cured Nutrition for quite some time now. You guys have some products, specifically the Serenity Gummies, that are a staple and they must. I mean, I have my mom on, my mom takes them, my sisters take them. It's like a gift that I give for, Christmas all the time. Like, I love these freaking Serenity Gummies, but that's just one of the products that you guys have that I love. So I can't wait to really dive into all things Cured Nutrition, but really use this opportunity, I think, to really educate the listeners on some of these ingredients that you guys are using in your products that are really helping a lot of people with anxiety and with stress and with better sleep. And I know, so many of my listeners are women over 35, really a lot of women over 40, and sleep for so many of us is the friggin' holy grail that we're constantly chasing. And so I think, though, that there just is a lot of maybe some stigmas attached and also maybe some confusion with some of these different ingredients. It's CBD, CBN, I was telling you right before we hit record, Delta 8, 9, 10, Delta 49. I don't even know anymore what's what. So I just thought this would be a really cool opportunity to really just spend some time kind of deep diving and educating the listeners on some of these really, really helpful ingredients.
Yeah. Wherever you want to take it, I'm game. I love to nerd out. I'm a nerd at heart. I'm a former engineer turned cannabis entrepreneur. So those go right hand in hand, right? Not so much.
I know, right?
And I mean, the core of our company, since we started it, has been focused on problems that all humans struggle with. And like you said, okay, a lot of us are stressed. A lot of us are anxious. We need to learn how to really just calm down and find our center. And then a lot of us can't sleep. And so when we started the company, I had been stepping out of actually the bodybuilding world, and I was connected to a lot of people in the NPC physique bodybuilding competition space. And the whole pursuit for me was really just trying to define what healthy really was, because I had this overcorrection phase of my life. I went from, as I kind of touched on, I was an engineer at Lockheed Martin for about 7 years and was climbing out of the depths of a really dark place. I had struggled with anxiety and depression, and then bodybuilding actually really saved me in the short term. And then it became disordered. And when it became disordered, that's when I really started to ask myself, what is health really? And as I mentioned, our company's trying to just focus in the most simple way on the problems that almost all of us struggle with. So many of us are stressed. So many of us can't sleep. And the cannabis plant has a great opportunity to help with those two specific problems, and at the same time has carried stigma. So we said, okay, we're gonna have to rebrand this industry, be the educators, really show people that can benefit from this plant. It's not what you actually may have been conditioned to think it is, if it's used correctly. And so that's what we do at Cured. And we have several different form factors and different products, and we can dive into all of them. Serenity Gummies being one of them, like you said. But that's our mission, is to create a forward-thinking business that's taking the stigma away from specifically cannabis, but more importantly, just alternative methods, and solving the problems of everyday humans.
So the editors are going to get this, but Joe, you're going in and out so bad for me right now. I just wonder, are you, you're not your sound, the sound, actually the whole thing just keeps like cutting out. So I wonder, well, we'll just keep rolling. And I mean, this is not the first time this has happened. Like, I mean, it can happen. So it's fine. I think we'll just keep rolling, but just know, like, if there's like a weird pause, it may be because you've gone out on me, but, I think we'll be okay. Like, you're totally fine right now. So, okay. Well, that's all right. We're just gonna keep on keeping on. So that's okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's fine. Are you outside? Are you not outside? Are you?
Oh, no, it's happening on my end.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, and I have full bars on my Wi-Fi. I'm wondering.
I do too. That's why I can't figure out. It's so weird. That's all right. You know what? If this keeps up, what I'm going to have you do, although I hate doing interviews like this, I'm going to have you turn your camera off and just see if that helps.
Yeah.
But we'll just see, because I just don't want to. I want us to catch the whole interview. But
closing my other
you're
browsers
frozen again for
too
me right now.
Let's see.
Yeah, let's do that, and I'm just going to do that on my end too, just to
Those
like
browsers
make sure
are closed. This is closed. The only thing we're going to be doing here is Riverside.
Yep. And let's just see if that does anything. Okay. Well, we'll just continue. And if it does it again, then I may have you just turn your camera off, which, like I said, I hate doing that. But okay. So let's see. So I'm just trying to think where we just left off. We were just talking about kind of the mission behind the company and all the different ingredients. So, okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
And solving the problems of the everyday human.
Yeah, I mean, like, seriously, and you guys do hit on all of those. I mean, meaning in a sense, I think the biggest issues with that we struggle with are the sleep and the stress. But then I love that you guys mix in some gut health, because that really also controls all of those things as well, right? Sleep and stress. So I love that holistic approach to that. So I would love to spend just a few minutes, though, like really breaking down some of these key ingredients that you use. Because I'll be really honest with you, even me, I'm like, okay, I know CBD, THC, but then I like to see some of your products. I'm like, oh, it's got CBN. And I'm like, well, what the hell is CBN? What's the difference between that and CBD? And then I'm like, oh, well, we could either do night oil or we could do night caps. I'm like, I don't know. Is one better than the other? So let's educate these listeners here. So, yeah. So break it down for us.
Yeah. So where I like to start is when I say cannabis, I'm talking about a specific genus. So like think of marijuana and hemp both being cannabis. But if you were looking at like a family tree, cannabis is like the mother, and hemp and marijuana are both cannabis. But the differentiation between hemp and marijuana in the legal sense is that hemp has less than 0.3% THC in it. Mm-hmm. And then marijuana has higher concentrations of THC, could have higher concentrations of other cannabinoids. But the cannabis plant has over 100 known cannabinoids in it. And you just mentioned probably 4 or 5 of them. And specifically at Cured, we're really focused on CBD, CBN, and THC right now. However, since I said there are over 100 known cannabinoids, they all have benefits, and they're different benefits. And so we extract all of our product extract from the hemp plant. So it's low concentrations of THC, but less than 0.3% THC. However, there is THC in it. So when the extract comes out of the hemp plant, it has that wide array of cannabinoids: CBD, CBN, THC. It could have CBG, CBC, all these other cannabinoids. When you keep the extract as least refined as possible, you are going to have more than just one cannabinoid showing up in that extract. And so what I mean by this is, if anybody's familiar with, say, a whey isolate, an isolate means that that's the most refined version of that essentially molecule. And we can get there with CBD, but that means that we're taking a full spectrum extract, and then we're going through a distillation process, and then we're putting that extract into a solvent, and then you can get CBD isolate to fall out of the solution, and it's just CBD in its pure form by itself. We do have some products that are like the highly refined just CBD isolate, and those products are typically products that are labeled on our website as THC free because we've basically extracted all the THC from them. The full spectrum extract, though, is the closest thing to a full plant extract and is the most like holistic whole plant extract that you can get. That's where the other cannabinoids show up. So you can get low dose THC. You'll have high dose CBD, but you'll have the other cannabinoids showing up. And that's considered a full spectrum extract, the least refined extract from the hemp plant. It'll have some of the terpenes, which are the flavor profiles. So it'll have like the aroma to it. And the terpenes plus the cannabinoids create what is called in the industry the entourage effect. And that's just saying they're all working together to create a benefit in the body. And so most of our products are going to have high CBD concentrations, but then some products could have higher CBN concentrations, a little bit higher THC concentrations. We're keeping it below the legal limit. So the most THC you'll ever see in a product of ours is about 1 milligram per serving. It is in there, but it is very low dose. If you compare it to like, if you went into a dispensary, you're typically getting between 5 to 10 milligrams in an edible. Mm-hmm. So we're at about 1/5 to 1/10 of that dose. And we do that because our intention is not to necessarily get people high, but to get people the relief, the stress relief, the ability to calm down, the ability to sleep. So CBD, cannabidiol, is typically known for and used for its calming properties, but it also has anti-inflammatory-like effects. And when taken over time, really helps the body with recovery. And you can see that over time, it really helps the body achieve what we call as homeostasis. And that's done because it's interacting with our endocannabinoid system in our body. It's always been there. We have CB1 and CB2 receptors all over our brain and body, and the cannabinoids can interact with those. They can modulate the receptors or they can bind to the receptors. And in the most simple term and simple way of explaining it, the endocannabinoid system has a role in our sleep-wake cycle, our mood, our appetite. So when we say homeostasis, when that system is regulated properly, then all of the normal human functions that I just mentioned, mood, stress resilience, ability to calm ourselves, can be supported by CBD. So that's specifically CBD. Then CBN is more of, we call it like the weighted blanket cannabinoid. It's like laying under a weighted blanket. It's like your body is relaxing and shutting down. It almost has more of like a sedating effect. But CBN is typically, it can come from THC degrading. So THC can turn into CBN and it has more of like a heavy effect. So it's for nighttime, it's for sleep. And then THC, and if we just talk about those three, is the one that people typically think of as intoxicating, like it's going to get you high. But as I said earlier, our mission at our company is not to necessarily get people high, it's to get people relief. And so THC works really well with CBD when people are looking for any type of relief from aches, from anything going on in their body, because THC has more of an instantaneous effect, whereas CBD, you want to build up it in your system, and that's where you build like the therapeutic effects of it. So THC at very low dosages almost has like a euphoric effect. But if you keep it low enough and you combine it with CBD, CBD helps keep you calm. Some people get afraid of THC because they're like, oh, I'm going to get anxious. I'm not going to be able to handle it. But CBD actually counteracts that. So those are probably the three most important cannabinoids to talk about. And they're all coming from hemp extract. We are distributing these nationwide because we're keeping the THC concentration below a certain limit. And in most states like Colorado, it's below, it's about 1.25 milligrams per serving is the legal limit. And it's evolving all over the country right now, but that's how we actually serve customers across the country. So I'll stop there. Those are the three most important, and we can dive into any one of those.
Well, no, wait, I'm confused because you say that the legal limit in Colorado is 1.25 per serving, but you can go in and buy a gummy for 5 milligrams. So what do you mean? What's that? What is that 1.25? What's that in relation to?
When extracted from the hemp plant.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So we always extract from the hemp plant. If you're going into the dispensary and you're extracting it from a marijuana plant, like
that's different. Okay. Yeah. I see.
Yeah. So just think like the reason that we are an online supplement company is because we're extracting from the hemp plant and we're really regulating it down low, below the legal limits for hemp extracted cannabinoids. It's almost impossible to extract a full spectrum extract from a hemp plant and not refine it a bunch. And not refine it a bunch and not have THC in it. So that's like where we're in this place. Like we want to have the most whole plant extract. We don't want to refine it a bunch. Mm-hmm. And you're gonna have the other cannabinoids showing up in it because you're doing that. You can go to the isolated version, but then again, that's kind of not fully against our mission because it's like we're trying to be a holistic company here. But the more you refine something, the closer you get to pharmaceuticals, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's talk a minute then about CBD though, specifically because, it seems like everybody and their mother has a CBD product out there, right? And so so it can be confusing for the consumer though on a couple different levels. Like number one, how do you know how much you should take, right? There's some where it's like, oh, this is 5 milligrams, this is 100 milligrams, or like whatever, like these different tinctures. It's like, who knows how much you should be taking? There's, I'm always like, oh, this mindset has served me well and not so well, but I'm always like, oh, more is better. More is always better. But that's not necessarily true. It's gotten me into a lot of trouble a lot of times. However, you don't even know how much. And then also, I know you said a bit ago that like CBD is something that really has to build up in your system. It's not like you're right. Like THC, you can feel the effects pretty much immediately. I mean, immediately, pretty much. Yeah. But the CBD, it's something. So how long does it have to be in your system, or how long do you have to be taking it? And then how do you know like what's the right amount?
Yeah. CBD is everywhere. I would say that I would never order it off of Amazon because that's not real.
Right. I want to talk about that too, because there is a huge difference between the quality of products that you guys do and the others, like the everybody and their mother. That's what I'm talking about. There are two different, ways of doing that. But yeah, so continue, but we're going to get to that too.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that. 95% of companies are white labeling products from the same manufacturer, and I could list off all the manufacturers for everybody. But when it comes to how much should you take and how long do you need to take it for to feel the effects, typically we'll see about 2 to 3 weeks is taking it consistently and then coming off of it. You'll notice like aches are coming back. You're like, oh, I didn't feel the ramp up, but then when I came off it, if you come off it, you're like, oh, those things are starting to come back. So 2 to 3 weeks is a great way to look at it to like really feel the effects. But how much should you take? Definitely depends. Most serving size for our products is between 15 and 30 milligrams of CBD per serving. I would recommend probably for me, I'm like 190 pounds. I would say for me, I'm typically be doing between 30 and 60 milligrams per day. But everybody's different. And so, it also depends on how high are your stress levels. Are you getting the right quality product? Because not every product that says it has 30 milligrams in it actually has that. And that's something that we work really hard to make sure that what the label says is exactly what the customer gets. And we put a lot of time and effort into that. And that's the other issue in the industry. But I would recommend between 30 and 60 milligrams per day for at least 2 to 3 weeks to really feel the overall effects. Now, if you're using like our Calm caps, for example, which is just straight up full spectrum extract in a capsule, you will feel those right away because they do have low dose THC in them. But when you're wanting those other effects from CBD, that's when you're going to have to take them a little bit longer. And you asked a question earlier, you had a statement about taking it in capsule form versus oil form. The oil form, if you're taking like the tincture, which is the dropper, and you put it underneath your tongue and you hold it for 30 to 60 seconds and then you swallow, what we've noticed is that typically it's a quicker onset because you have the ability to absorb some straight into your bloodstream from your mouth underneath your tongue. But if you're taking the capsule, if I took the same amount in a dropper and put it underneath my tongue and the same amount in a capsule and took the capsule is going to be more effective because it's a more concentrated dose into my system. It's going all the way directly into my system and it's being processed through the liver. Whereas the same amount of oil going into your mouth, you're not absorbing all of that underneath your tongue. You're absorbing some, so you'll feel a quicker onset, but it won't be as effective of a dose. So you use oil for quicker onset. You use capsule for a more effective, like basically more bang for your buck dose, but it's going to take 45 minutes to 2 hours to onset. Whereas the oil, sometimes you can feel it in like 15 to 45 minutes. So dose dependent, depending on stress levels, depending on activity, depending on really what you're trying to work on. 30 to 60 milligrams is a great place to start. And most of our per day, and most of our products are dosed at around 20 to 30 milligrams per serving.
So you're going to, can you hear me? Oh, I thought I tapped out. Others will get that.
I can hear you.
You're going to laugh your ass off, but no wonder why I sleep like a rock, because so then this begs my next question, which can be, can you take too much? Because I'm just going to tell you what I take at night. I take 2 of the Serenity gummies. I take the night caps and I do the night oil. I just hit it all. And so then I'm like, that's just okay, good. Yeah. I'm like, shit, am I taking I'm like, but I sleep like a freaking, and I'll just be real honest. Sometimes I even throw a half of a THC, sometimes I even throw a half a gummy on there too. And then I'm really in, I mean, that to me, I'll do that like on a Friday night when I just and I'm like, man, I slept like a freaking bear in a cave. It was incredible. So I'm curious, like, but I sleep and just amazing with even doing the 3 Cure nutrition products. So I'm curious, like, can you like do too much here?
I mean, the side effect that I have experienced is I'm just groggy in the morning if I take too much. If you took too much during the day, you're probably just going to get tired.
Yeah.
And you might just end up having to take a nap. But it's extremely safe. So I wouldn't worry about the product. If you're taking too many Serenity gummies, THC is in there. So you will eventually get to the point where you're getting high from it. Yeah. And that would be the effect that maybe some people aren't looking for. So we also, in that product, we have ashwagandha, reishi, and L-theanine, which are all really good for calming your central nervous system and just calming you down overall. So some people, they say THC makes them anxious, and then that's why we put the other ingredients in there to be very specifically targeted to just be relaxing. And the idea of taking too much is if you're taking a product with THC in it, you will feel high. So that's what I would be worried about. And then for me, the one thing that I notice is if I take too much, specifically CBN, then I feel groggy in the morning.
Well, and I will say too, for any of the listeners who are going to want to try the Serenity gummies. So this is a funny story. So I am like, I'm very, very sensitive to stuff. Like if I take Sudafed, I literally feel like I'm going to leap out of my skin. And so I'm just very, very sensitive to taking any sort of thing. And I'll never forget the first time that I had gotten the Serenity gummies as a test. You guys sent them to me to try, and it was in the middle of the day. And I was getting, you already know where I'm going with this. And I was getting ready to, I was just getting ready, I think I had like 3 sales calls lined up. Okay. Like just back to back. And it was like noon, and I just wasn't, it was like, I just wasn't even, I was like, oh, microdose of THC. I'm like, I've smoked more pot in my life. I'm like, I'll be fine. Like, there's no big deal. So I just was like, no big deal. I just took 2 of them. Like, it's fine. I just popped 2 of them. And then all of a sudden, and I had like a massive effing panic attack. I called my mom, and I'm like, Mom, and it's also because I'm an intermittent faster. And so I hadn't eaten anything.
Oh yeah.
I hadn't eaten. That's really why I think it's because I was like noon. I had not eaten yet. I took the 2 and I like called my mom in a total freaking panic. And I'm like, Mom, I think now granted, that's not, like you don't get super high. And I wasn't super high. I was fine. I felt a little off because it was enough THC to where my body wasn't used to it. I had taken 2, I hadn't eaten yet. So I just share that story just for people to know, like, no, you don't get like super high off taking these. However, if you're not used to taking them, like don't take 2 right off the bat, like, be a little bit smarter than I was, maybe take 1 and see how you feel. I also don't know. For me, I wouldn't take it in the middle of the day. For me, I do better. I like it better at night. Yeah. But anyways, yeah. So they're
yeah. For everybody that goes and orders Serenity after this podcast, you will get a card in the box that tells you exactly how much THC is in them, and the package is childproof as well.
Yes.
And it says just take 1. So.
It does say take 1. Do you guys remember I just said a minute ago, my motto in life is always like more is better, whatever.
Yeah.
No, see, that's so, okay. So just build up to it and follow the instructions, people. Just 1.
Yeah. I mean, they work. And the thing is that they're meant to be stress relievers, and they're meant to, I would say the first time you're taking it, just take it at the end of the day when you're ready to relax, because especially, taking it on an empty stomach, I typically take them at the end of the day, like 5 p.m. I'm winding down my work day. I take 2, I feel them start, and then I go eat dinner, and then I feel them start to kick in while I'm digesting dinner. And it's like the perfect amount because I'm digesting them with the food. And I mean, if you're trying to go into a sales call and be on point, it's a little different story.
It was awful. My mom used to laugh about that. So I know you said that it is, when we're talking about CBD and like CBN and the microdose of THC, that it is, it is relatively safe and healthy. Are there any like negative side effects though that people should, because every body is different. Is there any kind of the research show that there is some negative side effects from taking any of these?
Yeah. The biggest thing that I would recommend is if somebody has concerns, there could be potential contraindications with medications. So I would absolutely talk to your doctor if you're on specific medications, because there could be interactions. And we're not here to tell you what to do outside of what your doctor's telling you what to do. Some people have said that at really low dosages, they've actually felt CBD to be a little bit stimulating. And I saw this chart at one point that was like this bell curve, and it was like the 5 milligram and less, or like it was like 5 milligrams and less. Some people had reported CBD being stimulating. And so if you're looking to get relaxation from it, and you took that low dose of CBD, there has been some cases that we've seen that people say it is stimulating, and that's not what you would be necessarily looking for. So I would say that, I've had my dog, unfortunately, drink a whole bottle of CBD, and he just was really tired the whole day. So that's going back to the same thing of when you take more than the recommended serving size, what you're getting is more THC than you probably want. So just be aware of that. But for the most part, we have not seen any other side effects outside of just making sure that when it comes to medications, you're just being very clear about talking to your doctor about certain things, because it is powerful. The extracts are powerful. They work really well. And that's why so many people continue to come back. And it's not like, sometimes a lot of vitamins and supplements, you take them and you don't feel the effect of them. So then people think that they're not working. But the equation there is just you need to take it for longer. So that's how I would say that. We haven't necessarily seen any negative side effects besides the fact that some people thought it was going to be relaxing. They only took a little bit and it was actually stimulating.
Well, you mentioned your dog a minute ago, and one thing that you also offer is dog treats for those are just for dogs, right? I'm like, I guess.
Yeah, well, actually, by the time this releases, though, we're getting rid of those. So.
Oh, okay. Well, forget it, people. Forget the dog treats. But I am curious though, like, because there's obviously like there are definitely other products out in the market like for animals. I'm curious, like, What is the age? There's a lot of moms that listen to this show. Like, what is the age that's like CBD? Like, is it even appropriate to give to your kid? Is it safe to give to your kid? Is there an age limit? That's, a lot of kids play sports and stuff. And like, I look at like even my son who's out there, playing baseball and stuff. And I'm like, he just running all around and his arm hurts after practice and all the things. Like, so yeah, does it work with kids, or is it like, no, we're not doing it for kids yet?
For us, we can't market or sell or say anything to anybody less than the age of 18.
Okay.
But what I would say is there's a lot of information out there on the internet that shows the safety and efficacy of the product. And so I would just take that as a it depends answer, but we don't market or sell to anybody less than 18.
So is that is really kind of like the legal limit right now for like all CBD type and CBN, all those types of product, it is 18 and up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so yes, read between the lines, people. Cured Nutrition does not recommend selling it or giving it to children, but if you're interested in that, just do your research and see what you come up with. I'm sure lots of science and research behind it.
Yeah, and I want to say that this whole industry really took off because there was a girl named Charlotte who struggled with epilepsy, and CBD really helped her. Charlotte's Web is a company that people have probably heard of, and that strain of cannabis, it's literally called Charlotte's Web. That's the strain of hemp. It was taken by a child that was struggling with epilepsy, and it really helped her ability to navigate what she was experiencing. And so that's what I would say. And there's a lot of studies out there on it. And, a lot of use cases. I'll just, again, say that it is extremely safe, but with the caveat of there is THC in it. So that's why we're saying it's not intended for anybody less than the age of 18.
I don't know about you, but like, I just can't wait to see like 10 years from now where we're at with so much of this stuff, like with, the psychoact, like, with doing like the medicinal mushrooms and for, and THC and like all of this. Like, I just like feel like we're just so like, we're obviously not there yet, but just like 10 years from now, so many of these things, these healing modalities that can really, I'll be so curious to see like where alcohol is in comparison. I will say though, like alcohol is obviously is a whole other topic for a whole other day, but like alcohol, there's so much big business and money behind it, sort of like pharmaceuticals. Like, I don't know if alcohol will ever be on the outs, probably the way that it should, but I'm just so curious to see like where we're at with some of these other things that are really making, just remarkable changes in people's lives. But unfortunately, there's just so much, again, like so much stigma around some of these things. And it's just such a shame.
Yeah. Part of the reason I started the company is I struggled with alcohol for a while. It almost ended my life. My cousin, my uncle, and my grandpa all passed away directly from alcohol. And so for me, I've had that it's in my genes, and I struggled with it big time. And I love nothing more than being able to wake up and feel like I can just attack the day. And I've never felt that with alcohol. And so we've actually have a lot of people that are using Serenity as an alcohol replacement.
Yes.
So like end of the day, just like I was saying, it's like the new happy hour. You can take it at 4 or 5 p.m. It really helps you relax. And somebody said this really well recently. It was just like, it's just like a deep exhale. I feel like I can just unwind, and you're not going to have the negative side effects. You're going to sleep really well, and then you're going to wake up and you're going to feel refreshed. And not that all alcohol is bad. However, I would say when it comes to safety, they're not even comparable. There's never been a death from marijuana ever.
No. And, it's funny. I just recorded a solo podcast. I recently made the decision to go alcohol free. And this is something for me, like I've always, again, going back to that more is better mindset, you're probably picking up a trend on me. It's not with me. It's no secret for my listeners. I mean, alcoholism has run in my family. My grandfather died of alcoholism as well. My dad was a rugby player. He was a huge drinker. My brother and I have always been huge drinkers. And over the years, it's been something something that I've had to really work on, and also, quite frankly, struggled with alcohol and really managing that relationship. And so I've definitely had periods in my life where I've just gone alcohol free and given it up. And I recently, I'm 45, and I'm like, you know what? I'm sick of like I'm tired of the negative side effects. The podcast I recorded is I was sharing with the listeners that there were 3 things that I was doing to help me, especially because summer can be triggering. Like, you want to have a drink, you're on a patio, like whatever. But there was 3 things that I was doing to help me to live alcohol free. And the first one was prioritizing sleep. But also the Serenity gummies. So that was it. That was one of my top 3. So it was prioritizing sleep, and that was helping with the Serenity gummies at night, because that was replacing that glass of wine. And for me, also, I was sharing with the listeners the Reframe app, which I love. I think that's a great app. But then also Athletic Brewing has some killer craft beers. I mean, like, I'm a huge IPA drinker. And so they've got some amazing craft beers. So I just love it because there's so many resources now. I think that if you are somebody who wants to live an alcohol-free lifestyle, there's just so many more options now, just even in the last, I think, 5 years of like how far we've come with brands like yourself and brands like Athletic Brewing. And so that's why I say it's exciting for me to even see where we're going to be another 5 years or even 10 years with some of these, some of these different options for people.
Yeah. I always say, part of leading a company is having vision and being clear on where it is we're going, how we're going to get there, what the future is going to look like. It's so important to enroll the entire team into the vision of the future. And we truly envision a future where more people are going for a microdose level of THC than reaching for alcohol.
Yes.
And when you try it, you'll recognize why I say that, because you can take the gummy, go be on the patio and drink literally water or anything and just be like, wow, I feel great.
Yes.
I'm exhaling. I'm present. That's the most important thing. Like, you can actually feel like you're present and you're not looking like you or feeling like you need something else. And so it is a huge wave. And I envision a future where like the tables have turned and more people are like saying no to alcohol and they're actually saying yes to these other alternatives. And the truth is there's a war going on because big alcohol and big pharma, we are a threat to them.
Yes.
And it is why we are where we are. It is why the regulations are still working their way out. And then at the same time, there are bad actors. So, there are so many people don't like nuance a lot of times, but the answer is very nuanced.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that, you're right. You're so right when you said, like, when people like actually try it and actually do make that choice to like, just even for a little bit, if you've never even tried to go alcohol free and like just even doing it for even just like, I notice for me, it's usually around day 10 when it's like fully out of my system. And that's what the research shows, that it can linger. And then you combine, I'm always someone that struggles with high anxiety too. So when you are taking products like the ones at Cure Nutrition that have some of those adaptogens that you mentioned, like ashwagandha, they've got the nootropics in it, like L-theanine, and you combined like those without the alcohol and you're getting badass sleep. Like when you talk about feeling, like you said, like, I think you said like unstoppable, or you feel amazing, like in your energy, it really is effing crazy. Like, you don't realize how low your baseline is. Even if you're not somebody, like I was never but somebody that drank every day. I just, more is better. When I would drink, I'd drink. And so for me, it's like, it just, you don't realize like how low your baseline is until you actually do something different. And now it's like, fuck, okay. Like, yeah, like it is, you feel like you just feel so much different.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's part of the point is there was this narrative around who the cannabis user is in the beginning of the 1900s when Reefer Madness came out, and there was this idea of like Cheech and Chong mentality. And when all the propaganda started, the cannabis user was defined as the person that's lazy sitting on the couch eating potato chips. But I'll tell you right now, if I just have a gummy every day or 2 gummies every day and I go to bed at 9 p.m., I sleep through the night, I'm running circles around people.
Yes.
And I'm not you can be a high performer, a high achiever. You can be highly respectable. You can be highly trusted. You can be highly all these things and be a cannabis user. And that's not the story that we all grew up in. That's not the DARE program. Marijuana is not the same as heroin. We got that all wrong. It's called propaganda. We live in a story, and we just need to understand that the story is changing, and whether you want to get on board or not is the question. And sometimes it's just like being open to having another perspective and giving it a try. And that's why we do such low dose products.
Yeah.
I'm not like, if you are on an empty stomach, you take 2, you're going into a sales call, you're going to feel it. But guess, like, the point is that one serving with the adaptogens, you will feel the relaxation and the relief that is really intended if you're using cannabis intentionally. From our perspective, it's not to escape, it's to be present and get the relief that you're looking for. And if enough people can experience that, then I believe the narrative starts to change. But it's literally one person at a time.
Well, and this is exactly why you're on the show right now. I mean, it is my mission to really educate, the listeners on some of these things. So, as we wrap up, I would love for you to share, though, what makes your products. I know you mentioned a minute ago about, being careful about buying this stuff on Amazon and all that kind of stuff. Like, what is different, or what should some of the listeners look for when they are purchasing some of these products? Maybe some of the practices that you guys already do at Cured Nutrition.
Yeah. So what I will say is my business partner and I, we met in engineering school. So we both went to CU Boulder. We're engineers. We're nerds at heart. And we've taken that mentality and brought it into the framework of our company. Like, scientifically, how are we going to control the process to make sure that we have the highest quality product to produce the results that we promise? My business partner also used to be in the cannabis farming industry. And so when we started the company, we had a hemp farm in Boulder, Colorado. We had a manufacturing facility in Lakewood. We were literally fully vertically integrated. So we saw it from seed to sale. And that was really controlling the quality. But we also, as early stage entrepreneurs, learned that we couldn't do it all. So now we don't actually have a fully vertically integrated company, but we have very close relationships with the labs, the extracts facilities, and then ultimately they have really close relationships with the farms. And what we do is we put a lot of time and effort into our quality control. And so there are several things that you can look for. And it basically comes down to microbial testing. So just making sure that there's nothing showing up in the extracts. If, like, say a dry powder was moist for some reason, you could get microbes in it. So we make sure that there's no microbes. We do testing to make sure that there's no pesticides, because pesticides can come in the farming process. So there's no pesticides. We also make sure that there's no heavy metals, because heavy metals, hemp can actually remediate land, as in it can take toxins out of the soil and suck it up, which is cool because it can actually clean up or remediate land. However, you don't want that ending up in your hemp extract. So we test for microbes, we test for pesticides, we test for heavy metals. And then we also we do a full panel extract test to show how many milligrams are in the product. And that confirms that the exact milligrams that are on the label are actually in the product. And we do all of that before we ever accept it into inventory. Then it gets into inventory, and we have a very specific first in, first out quality control mechanism where a product has to come into our facility with testing, and it will only leave our facility when that testing has also been double verified. So we put all of that testing on our website. You can go to Cured Quality Control. You can see the test results from every single batch. You look at your product, there'll be a batch number on it. And so if a company doesn't publicly display their test results, I would be concerned, but I would also say that actually happens a lot, because in the supplement industry, it's actually not required. And so what we did is we took an approach saying that we are going to require it for everything that we do, and we're going to publicly display it so anybody can see what's in the product before they're actually buying it. They can verify the label claims. And the truth is, there are companies out there that are either just buying product from a big manufacturer and slapping their label on it. So they're not doing custom formulations. It's called white labeling. Most supplements that a lot of you probably take unless you've done your research, could be a white label product. It's just coming from one manufacturer. There's 5 different brands putting their label on it. It's very common in the supplement industry. But we do custom formulations for everything that we do. And so in that process, some of those companies probably aren't doing the level of testing that we're doing. So I would go to the websites, see if you can see the test results. If you can't see test results, reach out to the company, say, hey, I would love to see, like, confirm that this is what it says it is. Because if you're not getting the full dosage that the product actually claims to have, then you're probably not going to get the efficacy. And then you're probably going to think that it doesn't work. And then you're probably going to go tell your friends that it doesn't work, and you're never going to come back to the industry. So like, that's what happened. So we just took a very scientific approach, and my partner, he's like the science nerd. Well, I guess I am as well, but has stayed with it, and he's more on our operations end. And every single extract has very specific ratios. So in like the Serenity gummies, it's a 15-to-1 extract, 15 milligrams CBD, 1 milligram THC. We do the formulation in the lab, test it, verify that that's the ratio, then put it into the formulation. So we're really measuring it at all steps of the process. And by doing so, the product will always work. And that's what the problem is that some companies they want to make a buck, and they don't want to spend the extra money because it's going to reduce your margins. But ultimately, the customer is going to come back because the product worked or it didn't work. So there's no like rules, unfortunately. And we just kind of put the rules on ourselves, because those rules do exist to be in a dispensary. Like in Colorado, you have to do all that testing to be in a dispensary. But in the hemp industry, that quality control was never required. And so we just said, we agree with how Colorado has taken an approach. We're going to take those rules on ourselves and follow them. And it just allows us to be confident in what we're selling, because at the end of the day, if we're not serving our customer, we're not building a successful company.
Yeah. And, I say this, and I love that you guys go to those levels to really just ensure that your products are, what they say they are, they're high quality. And that's one of the things I impress upon the listeners all the time is like, you're putting these things in your body, people. You get what you pay for. If you're looking for something, don't cheap out on supplements when you have no idea what you're even getting. And, when you really look at, like, if you are using, for instance, the Serenity gummies to replace alcohol, you know how much friggin' money you would spend on alcohol, right? Like versus a bag of the Serenity gummies. Like, it's just, we have to change our thinking on that for sure. So I love that you guys are going to those levels. Well, Joe, thank you so much for just being here. As I said before, I'm a huge fan of what you guys are doing. It's become a big part of my everyday, my health optimization, of my health and wellness. I love sharing what you guys are doing with my followers. And I just really appreciate you spending some time really educating us on just some of these different ingredients that can be a little bit confusing. And so thank you for just simplifying it for us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Love the conversation. Love where this is all going. And It takes conversations like this to make it happen. So appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. So, Joe, where can the listeners find out more about Cured Nutrition? I know you guys too. I think you guys just introduced some like subscription type packages for customers, right? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So Cured Nutrition, you could spell that out on Instagram and find us, and that will take you to our website, or you can just go to curednutrition.com. If you subscribe to our products right now this is going to release way after this. It's 20% off to get a subscription. And like you said earlier, if you subscribe to Serenity, it's 80 cents per gummy. So
right. That's what we're talking about. Right.
Of wine.
Right. Yeah. Right. Unless you're drinking Boone's Farm, which, that was my high school drink of choice. Well, awesome. Well, yeah, it's definitely worth it, and definitely worth getting, that 20%. I always encourage my friends and family to get on the reoccurring shipment. So, Joe, thanks again for being here. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Thanks, Amber.
Absolutely.